Today we're talking about mechanics. If you feel like your mechanics are holding you back from throwing as hard as you could be, it's your lucky day, because recently hundreds of pitchers applied to get their mechanics analyzed by us on this channel. And most of them had mechanical flaws that were destroying their ability to throw 90 miles an hour and beyond. So today Albertus, my co-founder, and I are going to show you exactly how to fix these mechanical flaws that honestly, you probably have too. By the way, I'm Josh Gessner. I trained myself to throw 98 miles an hour in my 7 years of professional baseball with the Phillies and the Rangers. And this is Albertus Barber, who trained himself to throw 99 miles an hour and also played for the Phillies. So this is our first athlete, Josh, who wants to get to 90 miles an hour and beyond. But right now he's stuck at 79 to 80 miles an hour, topping 82 miles an hour. And he emailed us saying that he has really good strength numbers, but his mechanics are just holding him back from throwing hard. Now, we're so focused on pitching mechanics because we view pitching velocity as a two-part problem, to where firstly, you need to build the engine and your physical capabilities to be able to produce enough force to the back of the ball, right? This is all the lifting, power stuff, speed stuff, everything that gets your body to be able to produce more force. But all that goes to waste if you aren't able to move on the mound in a way that gets all of that force to the back of the ball. All right, before we move on, if you want your mechanics broken down just like this, we do that live on a call that you can book, first link in the description below. This will be for the guys who are extremely serious about gaining pitching velocity and interested in working with us at the Pitch Lab. And out of these calls, we'll select 3 to break down on this channel next week.
Yo, what's up, Josh? I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about your mechanics and help you fix the lowest hanging fruit that you have right now. First thing that I would have you do is look at rate of force development, but mechanically, that's where your biggest lowest hanging fruit lies, okay? So right now, if we look at your lower half, you'll see that your front stride leg immediately starts open, and this is forcing your pelvis and back leg and hips to go with it, okay? Because you're not holding any tension in these areas to delay the pelvis to fire violently. And typically you want the back leg to fire into the pelvis into the front leg, and then it sends the energy up the chain. It's like this really quick action that's happening. But right now you can't do that because instead of being like a rubber band, you're basically just collapsing all of your energy forward. And so you have a little bit of internal rotation bias that your body wants to go towards. And so the first thing that I would recommend for you is to start internally rotating your lead leg as well as you're striding. This is going to help you start to successfully delay the firing of the pelvis and the back leg so that you're not leaking your energy forward and you're creating more efficient and violent rotation that can actually be used to throw harder, rather than dumping all of your energy forward, torso and spine losing a little bit of your posture and having to compensate for the energy that you lose. More separation does not equal good. Efficient separation equals good. So just because you've created this position where your pelvis is wide open and your torso looks back, doesn't mean that that's actually doing anything for you at all. We would much rather have a violent late rotation of all of the positions that we can take as much possible energy and transfer up the spine than an extremely early dumpy energy rotation. So drills that you could pair this with to fix it would be rotational step backs, KBO kicks, jump backs, and then also quick plays to start to blend it athletically. But you have to pair that with the cue of keeping that lead leg facing inwards, right? So that it will delay the timing of your pelvis and start to build proper energy up your chain. And then you also won't be reaching as far in your stride to compensate. It'll be an efficient rotation where you'll be able to basically land properly on your lead leg as well. Start earlier block timing, and then transfer that energy up to your spine. It won't be a forward falling block. It'll be more of a rotation in the foot strike that immediately starts blocking, is efficient, and you aren't compensating to find as much range of motion as possible to make up for the lost energy.
So for our second pitcher, we've got Connor. He has really good strength numbers, but he's stuck in the low to mid 80s. And so Albertus, tell me what you see and how you get him to 90 plus miles an hour. All right, just a reminder that if you want your mechanics broken down from us, then you can book a call down below, first link in the description. And we're gonna choose 3 of these to break down on this channel next week.
Yo, what's up, Connor? Before I get into this, you gotta realize that you're a 100-mile-per-hour candidate. You know, as somebody who has basically made a living telling people how they're bad, that's a really big compliment for me, okay? So moving forward, realize that you only have a little bit of stuff that you have to fix before you're realistically about to be in the best possible version of yourself. During that time, you need to continue to work on staying exactly who you are after you fix these low-hanging fruits, and continue to develop in the weight room, specifically power work for you, because clearly your strength's already good. Let's get into the mechanical aspect of this. There's currently 2 things that you struggle with. One of those things is that you have fake tension with your midsection. You'll notice that your rib cage gets extremely pointed upwards, so you don't actually have control of your center of mass. It's basically just you pointing your ribs and going into lumbar extension. Keep your ribs down, tuck that pelvis, and make sure that you're keeping your center of mass underneath you properly rather than losing it out here, because you tend to lose it as you progressively stride. We need to teach you how to rebuild that impulse of keeping all of this connected, right? Because it is connected physiologically. And then the big issue for you right now is going to be the fact that your arm gets really stuck behind you. And this is leading to a couple of issues. One, it's going to lead to inconsistencies at release and the varying amount of supination and pronation that you create because of it. But a really big issue that it's leading to is also some slight elbow climb, right? It's okay for our elbow to climb if we're using our spine to make it go upwards. But when the elbow simply climbs as we're throwing from a late arm action, you're just putting a lot of unnecessary stress on your elbow. And so if you could clean up your arm action to not get so far behind you and throwing that energy back with that forward shoulder roll, you'd have a lot more success with strikes, pitch ability, and then consistent pitch movement shapes as well. But you'd also have a velo jump, because then your body wouldn't be compensating to try to get the arm on time. The arm would already be ready to accept the energy and throw it through the target, right? A couple of things that you could do to help aid you with this would be some self-toss variations. And then some pendulum variations. And some glove taps where you don't let this arm get back here. So you can cue yourself in any way that you prefer in that. Think of loading into our spine and our back muscles as kind of like the same thing. If we go ahead and go like this with our spine neutral, you can see how far that I get. But if I go into extension, see how much deeper ranges I'm able to access? That just goes to show you how important it is to time up the arm with the spine, okay? And so think of it as the more you get in this forward shoulder roll, the more we're getting into our traps rather than getting into our T-spine, scap, and back muscles. So instead of getting into your trap, we want to get into here. And typically getting into those areas means the trap's kind of compressed. Because if we think of it like a bicep and tricep, if the bicep is maximally fired, the tricep is relaxed and stretched, right? And vice versa. And so basically, if you're more in the tricep, the trap in this area, you're not able to utilize the areas that you really need.
All right, for our last athlete, we've got Christian, who throws in the mid 70s, topping out in the upper 70s. And he's trying to make that jump to 90 miles an hour. And I know this is going to be more of a longer term process with someone like this. Just like when I was 16, throwing 78 miles an hour, I didn't throw 90 miles an hour until well beyond 1 year of consistent training. But Albertus, if you were to work with this guy and get him to 90 plus miles an hour, how would you do it with Christian?
Yo, so what's up, Christian? First of all, you're actually a pretty good mover, but you run into one issue that's really bad. Besides your mechanical issues, though, you need to hit the gym hard. You need to eat a lot more food, and you definitely need to work on power output, just overall power output and athleticism. Because your natural movement abilities are there. You know, clearly you understand how to throw a baseball pretty well, but you don't have the rest of the engine built out for you to achieve the level of output that you want. So you're actually in a much better position than most. A lot of people struggle with the throwing aspect and not necessarily the gym aspect, because it's easy to lift weights. It's easy to work hard in the weight room. Considerably less people throw 100 miles per hour than deadlift 600 pounds. Okay, and so one of those obviously requires a lot more attention to detail. And for you, the lowest hanging fruit that I would grab is your pelvis fires early because your back knee starts to cave in because you don't properly hold the tension in these areas to violently rotate them last second. And this is an issue because if you look at your pelvis rotating from part 1 into part 2, right, because there's 2 parts of the pelvis rotation, the initiation of the pelvic rotation and then firing into the front leg. One thing you'll notice is you get stuck in between part 1 and 2 of pelvic rotation, right? So you'll go to rotate in between part 1 and 2, and you'll get stuck until the torso comes through its zones because you dumped all of your energy so early that you can't finish that full pelvis rotation to pull the spine. They go together because of the hitch of energy in between part 1 and part 2, okay? And so when we think of a good lower half for somebody of your size and your movement patterns, we want it to be super violent and last second. And this is important as well, not only for your energy in your lower half when it comes to rotational patterns, but it messes with your lead leg's decel patterns because it dies and then the lead leg can't start to fully block the energy up the chain because it's now trying to forcibly finish that rotation, which you can see it doesn't until the throw is basically completed. So it's not only messing with your rotational velocities, but it's messing with your block, which is also messing with your decel patterns, which in turn cause you to throw significantly slower. Think of the position you're in now, which is the pelvis getting to here, and then they rotate together. You see how my pelvis and spine rotate together, versus if you didn't have that hitch of energy, the pelvis would rotate through and pull the spine. And so now we're looking at real efficient separation that is able to send energy up the chain rather than the chain dying at some point and them going like this. It's boom. The center of mass, the pelvis and the spine, are basically what generate almost all of our velocity, okay? And so if the transitioning of the pelvis into the spine is bad, we're basically ruining the throw quicker than it even begins. So you need to rebuild your lower half impulses, and a good way to do that would be to start to focus on really counter-rotating that pelvis into the back leg and holding that tension as you're drifting, and understand that the body's going to fire itself into foot strike on time. Okay? It's not going to just let you fall forward and die. It's not going to let you not fire those areas. Those areas have to go for you to throw. So start to feel holding that tension a little bit longer, delaying the pelvis rotation so that you can peak the velocities at the right time, and then not just get stuck and have to use your arm and the momentum from that to get out of these positions.
If you've made it here, here's a video where we take some concepts we taught in this video and help one of our athletes at the Pitch Lab get from 82 to 90 miles an hour in 3 months. I think you'll really like it.